What's going on, you guys? Alex AK. Welcome to the TC Blueprint. A few years ago, I wrote an ebook on how to work as a transaction coordinator, the A through Z, all the details, and the link is down below in the description. I've recently updated it. Every year I make an update for it to make it more relevant for you guys. In this video, I want to just dumb proof and make it dummy simple for you guys to understand the process of transaction coordinating. So as a TC, you're mainly going to work for sellers agents, for sale by owners, and buyers agents. I'm going to kind of break this down from hardest to easiest. Seller's agent is the hardest. The reason it's the hardest is because when you work as a TC for a real estate agent, so the state makes requirements. They need certain disclosures, certain documents to document each transaction. So if you're going to work for a listing agent, the first thing you need is a closing checklist. And a closing checklist is basically a document that you would get from the realtor's broker that basically says, here is what we need for us to have a complete file. So when escrow closes and the house is sold, your job is to collect all the documents on the checklist. And here to my left, you should see an example. To your right, you should see an example of what the checklist may look like. This is from my ebook, the TC Blueprint. And obviously based on depending on what state you're in, your broker's gonna have their own checklist. But we're here in California, so this is what it would look like. Your goal is to submit the required documents on that checklist as you go through the escrow. So number one, get that closing checklist from your broker. Number two, opening escrow. Most agents are gonna have their own escrow company. So they might just ask you, hey, go ahead and open escrow with so-and-so company. But to be more proactive would equal you being a better TC. So you just want to say, hey, who's your preferred escrow company? What's your plan as far as that goes? Or do you need any recommendations? So it's good to have your own recommendations to escrow and title companies, just so that you can sound more professional, come out more professional, and that would also help you charge more with the people you work for, okay? So you're going to send the executed contract over to the escrow company's email. You're gonna have an email, you're gonna send it. I also have an example in my ebook. I'm gonna leave it right here for you guys. That's sort of what an opening email looks like. It's very organized. I'm mentioning who's the buyer's agent, who's the listing agent, their names, their emails, their phone numbers, the buyer's names as it appears on the purchase agreement, the seller's name as it appears on the purchase agreement, or whatever your agent provides you with. You also, ideally, as a good TC, you do want to look at the contract and you want to look at the timelines. Each state obviously has their own different timelines. EMD, earnest money deposit. You want to know, okay, what's the contract stating? The buyer has what, 3 days to submit their earnest money deposit to escrow. So you want to take note of that. And you want to make that, you want to note that on the opening email to escrow so that everyone's aware. Acceptance of offer. Hope you guys can see it, but this is acceptance of offer. So the date the offer was executed, the date the seller accepted the buyer's offer, that's the acceptance date. You want to have that on the email to escrow. Close of escrow date. So if the contract says it's a 30-day escrow, 30 days after acceptance. At least here in California, that's how it is. Just look at the contract. You want to add that. Now, we're starting with contingency timeline, inspection, appraisal, and loan. As a good TC, you want to be aware of these timelines, and when you open escrow, you write that email, the beautifully detailed email, you want to have these dates on there as well. Now escrow has opened, you know the timelines, you know the names of all the parties. The next thing is you pretty much need to prepare all of the disclosures on the closing checklist. Ask your realtor for access to the website he uses to obtain all these forms. When I hire my TC or anybody that does TC for me, and let's say they don't have their own access, I'll give them access. They're gonna have to get familiar with zip forms. So that's the same thing for you. You're gonna have to get familiar with this realtor's platform. So now that you're looking at the checklist, now that you have access to the realtor's zip forms or their platform that they use, you start collecting all of these documents. You want to go to your e-signature platform. If you don't have access to it, maybe the agent's nice enough to give you theirs. And then you start sending it to the realtor, only the listing agent. You don't send anything to the buyer's agent. That's their buyer's agent job. You need to communicate with your realtor because sometimes they may not want you to send certain things yet back to the buyer's agent or back to escrow. Everything that gets signed, especially when you're brand new, ask, who would you like for me to send it to, or would it be okay for me to send it to the buyer's agent? Please advise. Make sure everything's documented. Please go by email. Ideally, text, I guess, would be fine too, but I don't want you guys to get burned over not asking something, okay? Now, inspection period. So let's say it's a 10-day, or let's say it's a 14-day inspection period. You want to monitor that because when that day arrives, you're going to need to prepare, in most cases, a contingency removal. A contingency removal is a document that stipulates that for the buyer, it's time to waive a certain contingency. So you're gonna have to pull this document on the realtor's platform. You're going to want to make sure you ask your realtor which is the correct checkbox to check on it. Basically, it will be an inspection period in this case. Okay, and then ask them if it's okay to have the seller sign it and then forward it to the buyer's agent. That's usually the procedure. So the buyer's agent needs to handle the contingency removal, get it signed by their buyer, and then send it back to you. Same thing applies with appraisal and loan. So if the appraisal is 17 days and the loan is 21, same process. You watch timelines, you watch the dates. Okay, now it's time to do the same thing. Get a contingency removal document, checkbox for the appraisal or checkbox for the loan, get the seller to sign it, ask your realtor if it's good to go, if it's good to be sent to the buyer's agent. Moving on. For sale by owner, okay? So the whole thing with for sale by owner is that I'm just assuming you guys might have cold called someone, or maybe you just proposed it. There's a whole business model, and I actually made a video about how you can cold call and get a for sale by owner TC deal. And I made it live, a live call, and I got one after like 4 or 5 calls. So the link to the video is up here at the top. So let's say you called a for sale by owner like I did on the video, and they said, yeah, I'll take your service. You know, I'll pay you $500 or whatever. Great. So you need a closing checklist. In my ebook with the TC blueprint, I also added a bunch of forms and a bunch of contracts. I made it into a single page that is designed specifically for sale by owners. So normally what I would just say is, look, the process is this. When you get an offer that you think you like, take a look at it and then send it to me. Just send it to me, and then you would get started, get the seller to sign it via your e-signature platform, and off you go into escrow. Moving on to the best and my favorite part. Nothing's easier than being a buyer's agent TC. As a buyer's agent TC, you're simply on the receiving end. So you're going to receive a bunch of documents. You want to make sure your buyer's agent and the buyer receive these documents so that they can review these documents and basically tell your agent, okay, let me know which documents you are ready for me to send you for signature. They're going to tell you when they're ready for which document. You're going to take it to DocuSign, and they're going to sign it. That's all you need to do. Once the buyer signs it, ask the buyer's agent for permission. Hey, is this okay to send back to the listing agent? Are we all through here? Follow the timelines. Follow the closing checklist. It applies to you as well. This is how to transaction coordinator in a nutshell, in the most simple way. And if you guys have any other questions about this, please leave a comment below and I'll be happy to answer. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Peace.